The day of the marriage proposal, my girlfriend was kidnapped. I volunteered to be the hostage, but I was pushed off a tall building when the ambulance arrived. Sophia was still crying, but suddenly she pointed her camera at my broken leg. I was in a daze. Before I was rushed to the operating room, I heard her refuse to sign the surgery consent form. Liam was right. This incident will definitely attract a lot of attention. Although I didn't hurt my internal organs, I just broke both legs, but it's not life-threatening. Sophia is an internet celebrity with a borderline personality disorder. She became popular online by sharing her daily love life, but I never expected that she would fabricate a kidnapping for the sake of getting traffic. She even made me a cripple. If I don't have surgery, he will have to live in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Should I ruin his future just for a video? Even the doctor couldn't bear to watch. He looked at me sympathetically, covered in blood. So be it if I'm disabled. It would be troublesome if I get better. I just made some intimate videos with Liam. Sophia didn't seem to care. She was even pleased with her plan with her childhood friend. Later, when I was live streaming and wishing him and his childhood friend happiness in front of hundreds of thousands of people, she cried and begged me not to go. The effect of the anesthesia had not completely worn off. I could hear Sophia's helpless sobs in my ear. Her tears fell on the back of my hand. Things had turned out like this. It was all my fault. I will stay with you until you have fully recovered. Her tone was gentle, full of concern. It made me feel as if she had become a different person, no longer wishing me harm as she had before. My heart was full of mixed emotions. I couldn't help but want to lift my hand to wipe away her tears. Okay, cut. This is a very good take. The emotions are spot on. He was about to lift his hand. Suddenly, the movement stopped. A female voice came from behind him. The tone of voice suddenly became impatient. We've already filmed several takes. We're running out of eye drops. How could this not be perfect? Sophia seemed to have taken off her mask. She sat down on my bandaged arm without a care in the world. She didn't care if it hurt. Instead, she found my bruised and battered appearance to be quite amusing. She prodded the bloody gauze with her long fingernails. Then she let out a mocking laugh. What a shame. The doctor said with rehabilitation he will probably recover. I was even planning to make a series of videos about my disabled boyfriend. The bone in my arm broke again. The pain nearly took my breath away. My chest also hurt with dull pain. Despite the cold sweat on my forehead, I was in agony. Sophia pretended not to see. She said coldly, "I told you so. There's no need to rush him to the hospital. When he's completely disabled, he won't be able to sulk with you anymore." Liam came up smiling. Then I heard clothes rustling. I tried hard to open my eyes, but all I could see were two blurry figures. They didn't care about me in the hospital bed. They moved so much that they even knocked over the chair next to me. I tried to grab the railing to sit up. Immediately, two hands pressed down on my knees. My knees had just been operated on. I still had bone screws in them. The pain was so intense that I almost bit my teeth together. Sophia, if I break his knees, will he never be able to stand again? Liam noticed my furrowed brow. He turned to Sophia in his arms and asked. When Liam said this, his hand still not released, slowly oozing blood on the clean gauze, my girlfriend Sophia just wiped her smudged lipstick. Indifferently tugged his tie. She said, "Suit yourself. But this is a hospital. What if you get caught?" His chest rose and fell violently. The sight in front of him was more heartbreaking than the pain in his body. Once upon a time, he was in the lab and scalded the back of his hand with the potion. She would cry from the pain, couldn't sleep all night. Now I'm covered in blood. Lying in the hospital, not sure if I'll survive, but she's worried about whether her childhood sweetheart will get into trouble. My heart feels like it's being squeezed by an invisible hand. Even my blood seems to have stopped flowing. Sophia, you have no idea. When I pretended to be the robber and said I was going to kill him, his face was so funny, and he actually agreed to trade places with you. And you guessed it right. At that moment, my world collapsed. All the past I didn't want to remember came flooding back. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Sophia had deliberately caused my accident. She said, of course. He loved me so much. He was even willing to give up his life for me. In that case, we'll save the money we would have spent on a stuntman. They laughed. Their laughter stung like knives. In a corner where no one could see, I opened my eyes coldly. I could no longer see the deep love in her eyes. We had been together for 5 years, from university to the present. Although many people had warned me, Sophia had a performance disorder. She might not be suitable for a relationship, but I had never left her. I always remembered. Whenever I was exhausted, she would always hug me tenderly and comfort me softly. Even when I had a high fever, she stayed by my side all night without closing her eyes. As an orphan who lost his parents at a young age, this tenderness has an irresistible attraction to me. Because of this, I accepted her emotional ups and downs and tolerated her seemingly excessive behavior and demands. 5 years passed. I suddenly realized her tenderness only exists in front of the camera. After I woke up, Sophia immediately rushed to the ward with her equipment. Liam followed behind her. As soon as they entered, Sophia said excitedly, "Ethan, you're finally awake. I was so scared." I'm wearing an oxygen mask. I calmly watched her performance and silently avoided her touch. After the recording paused, Sophia looked displeased. She threw the script at me. "Are you still angry about Liam and me? It's about time you let it go. I've said many times, it was just work. You think you're hurt, so I have to agree with everything you say, even if I did shoot an intimate video with him. What does it matter?" The other day, Sophia's account updated a video. The video featured a man wearing my clothes. Although his face was not shown, I recognized him as Liam at once. Liam joined Sophia's company after returning to China. Whenever I went on a business trip, he would appear in my place. In the past, he filmed videos of our daily lives, but at the end of that video they were clearly kissing. To support Sophia's career, I often gave up my time off after work to accompany her on filming. That was the first time I had a fight with her. I told her, "We were just acting. If you don't have a clear conscience, don't think the worst of other people. Okay, even if we did kiss, so what? It's all for work. And it wasn't because you were away on business." That day, she smashed almost everything in the house that could be smashed. She even hurt my forehead. In the end, I gave in, because I didn't want to ruin the proposal a few days later. Looking back, I regret that I didn't understand it sooner. The filming still didn't go well. Sophia was so angry that she wanted to take off my oxygen mask. Liam stopped her. He seemed to be persuading her, but his eyes were defiant. "Sophia, don't get upset. Ethan broke his leg. It's only natural to feel angry. It's all my fault." I was so engrossed in the moment. While he was talking, he handed Sophia the hot porridge that was supposed to be a prop in the video. Sophia was already emotionally unstable. Almost instantly, the bowl of hot porridge spilled over me. My skin immediately turned red. I couldn't even care about the needle on the back of my hand. I just wanted to reach out and grab the glass of water next to me. A sharp pain pierced my skin like a needle. I struggled desperately. Finally, Sophia came back to her senses. Liam was quicker than her, but instead of reaching for the already cooled cup next to me, he grabbed the thermos directly. The boiling hot water splashed all over me. I instantly felt the pain rise up my veins. I couldn't help but scream. When the nurses rushed into the room, Sophia instinctively put Liam behind her. Don't blame him. He was the one who accidentally spilled the hot water. He's still lying after all this. He really did it to himself. Oh yeah, nurse. Will it leave a scar? If it does, it won't look good in the video. Sophia kept talking nonstop. She didn't notice my eyes growing colder and colder. "Sophia, let's break up." I turned pale. I stared blankly at the ceiling. I held out my blood-stained hand. That day I said we should break up. Sophia just sneered. "Ethan, you have to understand. The one who really can't live without me is you." She knew I was an orphan, and she understood how much I longed for a family. My wholehearted love became a reason for her to hurt me. She even confidently believed that I couldn't live without her. When I returned home to pack after being admitted to the hospital, I unexpectedly discovered Sophia busily working in the kitchen. The table was full of my favorite dishes. She sensed my arrival. She turned around and invited me to join her for dinner. I stared at the scene in front of me. It was as if I had traveled back in time. I couldn't help but frown. I remembered when I first got together with Sophia. She also prepared a table of home-cooked meals for me so tenderly. At that time, I was so moved that my eyes were red. I held her hand tenderly, which had blisters from the heat. We leaned in close to each other, imagining our future together, planning our lives together. She looked so natural, but I felt a little lost. We were once so close. How did we end up like this? Her fingers gently touched my scabbed scar, wiping away the tears in the corners of my eyes. It's all my fault. You got hurt because of me. Let me feed you. Suddenly, I smelled a strong ginger smell. I then noticed that there was a lot of ginger in every dish, but I am severely allergic to ginger. Even a little bit can be life-threatening. I immediately pushed her hand away. I hurriedly shook the wheelchair to try to leave. The spoon fell to the ground. I looked up. Sophia's eyes suddenly changed. They were no longer as gentle as before. Instead, they stared at me coldly. She said impatiently, "Forget it. Let's just stop here. A little editing should do the trick." She turned her head impatiently. She nodded at Liam in the corner. I followed her gaze. That's when I noticed that Liam was wearing my pajamas. There was also a conspicuous red mark around his neck. Sophia was even more angry because of what Liam had said. She accused me directly and loudly. "What a shame. It's all wasted. Don't you know how to appreciate things? If it weren't for me, you would still be an unprotected child, wandering around somewhere, and you dare to get angry with me." I looked at her in disbelief. I couldn't believe it. She didn't know that I was allergic to ginger. Once she added ginger to a dish, and I had an allergic reaction. She was so desperate that she stopped a car on the street. Crying, she begged the driver to take me to the hospital. I was deeply impressed by her tears of grief. I silently decided to protect her forever. But this is the same woman. She knew I was allergic to certain things and could go into shock, but she forced me anyway. I pushed her away. I put on a stern face and tried to quickly pack my things and leave. If it weren't for the research I've been doing for the past 6 months, I would never have come back here. "What are you looking for? Is this what you're looking for?" Liam's voice came from behind me. Then there was the sound of paper tearing in the air. Those research notes that I had painstakingly written countless nights. He just destroyed them. "Sorry, I thought they were useless. I don't think there's a problem. Ethan, don't mind him." I helplessly watched the shredded paper slowly fall to the ground. I gave Sophia one last look. She knew best how much effort I had put into this research, and she understood best how important these notes were to me. "These are just useless papers. I'm afraid I'll stain your hands if I tear them." Sophia silently avoided my gaze and let Liam step on the shreds of paper. At that moment, I clearly felt something in my heart collapse instantly. "Sophia, I owe you. Today, I have paid back what I owed you. From now on, we are no longer in debt to each other. We have no more ties." Drizzle falls. I tightly clutch the remaining shreds of paper in my hands. I look far away at the blurred, overlapping shadows on the window, so that I could see them together clearly. Liam didn't even close the curtains. "Hello, Professor. I agreed to go abroad for that biological research project. I didn't actually tell Sophia in order to start a family with her. I turned down the professor's invitation. I was intent on preparing to propose. However, the expected proposal turned into an inescapable nightmare for me. Now, I looked at my leg in the cast. I decided that she would never find me again. I never expected Sophia to suddenly appear in the lab half a month after we had broken off contact. She walked straight up to me in front of all my fellow students and slapped me hard. I froze in place. My face burned with pain. I could hear everyone gasping in surprise. "Ethan, you haven't answered my calls for half a month. You haven't replied to my messages either. Have you met someone else in the lab?" The camera's black lens is trained on my face. It's exactly the same as the day I was lying on the ambulance stretcher covered in blood. But this time, I'm not shocked. This time, I just turn my head and tell someone to call security. "You think you can just say a few words and everything will be fine? I treated you so well, and you treat me like this." Sophia is crying her heart out. She looks like a poor soul who has been cheated on and betrayed by the one she loves. But only I knew. She was actually after the attention, unable to accept the fact that she might become obsolete after I left. She had a passion for acting. but she chose another way that was enough to destroy me to attract attention. Many gazes fell on me with a wry smile. It felt like countless needles piercing my skin. Liam seemed to feel that it was not enough. He coughed lightly, putting on an embarrassed look. "Ethan, Sophia has done so much to cure you. How could you betray her?" He deliberately raised his voice, pushing all the blame onto me. "Ethan, ever since your accident, I have been taking care of you with all my heart. Where have I wronged you? Why did you betray me? That accident wasn't something I wanted to happen either, and I have almost spent all my money on you." The two of them worked together. The unknowing crowd felt aggrieved for them, but only my colleague in the same lab still spoke for me. The scene suddenly became chaotic. I clutched the back of the wheelchair. The veins stood out. I sneered at the two of them. I raised the microphone I had just prepared for the speech. "You have been dedicated to me, Sophia. Am I really so worthless in your eyes? Have I always let you treat me casually?" As soon as I spoke, it immediately became quiet. I noticed everyone was looking at their phone screens. That's when I realized Sophia had been broadcasting live. She pretended to be kidnapped during my marriage proposal. But then she pushed me off a tall building. As a result, I broke my leg. "Because you know I won't blame you. Because I love you. That's why you have the nerve to mess around with Liam in our home." As soon as she finished speaking, the room exploded. Some people even took out their phones to film the scene. Sophia's eyes widened. I couldn't believe that this time I didn't swallow my anger like I always did. She tried to snatch the microphone from me, but the security guard stopped her. She glared at me angrily and shouted, "Stop it, don't believe him. He's obviously cheating on you. And now he's trying to turn the tables on me." Facing her accusations, I just smiled. "You're calling me a cheater, but there aren't even any women at our research institute." The number of people watching the live stream had just broken through the 1 million mark. Someone suddenly shouted. I noticed Sophia's face suddenly turn ugly. She retorted, "Didn't you cheat on me? Don't forget, you installed the surveillance camera in the living room yourself." The security guard arrived in time to stop the chaos. Sophia and Liam were taken into the security office. Despite this, Sophia's anger towards me still had not subsided. "Are you happy now?" There were so many people in the live broadcast room. They must have heard what you just said. She stared at me, as if examining a sinner, facing her resentful gaze. I took a deep breath. At the moment she used me as a tool, squeezing out the last bit of value. I truly realized my naivety. "Dr. Ethan, this lady claims to be your fiancé. If that's not the case, we plan to call the police to deal with her trespassing." Security guard Uncle Lai looked at my wheelchair and gave me a sympathetic look. He asked with some difficulty, "The research institute where I work is a confidential unit. Sophia and Liam's behavior today is completely worthy of being reported to the police." Sophia froze up when she heard this, but she still looked completely unconcerned. She simply didn't believe that I would send her to the police. Instead, she blamed me for not answering her calls. "Ethan, you better hurry up and tell them to let me and Liam go. Otherwise, we're through. You'll never see me again." Liam suddenly looked at me. He had never spoken, but now he held out his hand. He wanted me to see the bruise on the palm of his hand. He said, "Ethan, even if we've misunderstood, it's because Sophia cares about you too much. You can do whatever you want to me, but Sophia can't have a photo of her in the police station." As he spoke, he placed the palm of his hand on Sophia's. His tone was full of grievance, but he seemed magnanimous. Sophia saw that he was bleeding and immediately became anxious. It was as if she felt that I had pushed Liam. She shouted at me, "Ethan, you apologize to Liam right now. You're just jealous because I get along with him. I admit it, we did kiss that day. Every time you work overtime or go on a business trip, it's Liam who plays the part of your substitute. If it wasn't for me, how could you be as famous as you are now, giving interviews everywhere? If I had known you were so unreliable, I would have chosen Liam as my boyfriend, instead of letting you take advantage of me for nothing." Although I was prepared to hear unpleasant things, I was still taken aback by her words. The results of my day and night research and hard work were dismissed as being obtained through the help of others. I felt dizzy. I no longer wanted to see these two people in front of me. At that moment, the professor, who had hurriedly arrived, immediately pressed my hand. "Ethan, how is your health? If you are not fully recovered, we can postpone your departure." The professor looked at my leg with concern. His tone was full of care. I weakly shook my head. "I just wanted to leave quickly. I'm fine. My departure cannot be delayed because of me." As I was about to be taken out of the security office, Sophia broke free from Liam and ran over to me. She asked, "What were you guys talking about? Ethan, you never mentioned going abroad. What about my account when you're gone?" Just as Sophia was about to be taken to the police station, she was still only concerned about her internet celebrity status. Just as she pressed down on my wheelchair, my crippled fingers caught her attention. I used to wear a plain ring on my ring finger. It was handmade when I first got together with Sophia. At that time, I promised her, "Only when we get married can I take off this plain ring and replace it with a wedding ring." This ring witnessed our whole process from falling in love to breaking up. Even when she made me feel the most sad, I didn't take it off. Now there is nothing between my fingers. Sophia grabbed my hand and shouted angrily, "How could you put the ring away? Didn't you say you would never take it off?" Her voice began to tremble a little, but her eyes still stared at me fiercely. "Ethan, if you apologize to Liam now, I can pretend that nothing happened." She offered to make peace. I coldly withdrew my hand. "I've already thrown away the ring. We have no relationship in the future." Since then, Sophia has never appeared in my life again. After Liam replaced me as the male lead, the effect was not ideal. Netizens began to question, as the head of this research field, before leaving for the trip, I participated in a popular science interview program. After answering all the professional questions, the host began asking me personal questions. "Everyone knows that Dr. Ethan was injured in an accident. How is your recovery going?" I understood the host's intention, but I politely responded. It wasn't until he asked me why I had an accident that I felt something was wrong. The audience began cheering. Sophia walked out from the backstage with a microphone. "Not long ago, Sophia contacted us and said there had been some misunderstanding between you. She would like to apologize to you on camera." The host chuckled and gave way to Sophia, but he didn't notice my face growing increasingly ugly. Sophia slowly took my arm, her tone sincere but firm. "Ethan, I've been meaning to apologize to you, but you never answered my calls. I was really worried about your injury. I didn't say a word." My gaze turned to Liam in the audience, as expected. He was filming my injured leg and wheelchair with professional equipment. "Dr. Ethan, everyone knows about the time you saved your fiancée. After all, you've been together for so long. There must be some misunderstanding. As the saying goes, better to demolish 3 temples than destroy a marriage. Be magnanimous. Forgive Miss Sophia." The host suddenly became serious. He was directly targeting me. Seeing all this, I realized why the host had been replaced today. It turns out that she and Sophia are in cahoots. Before I could say anything, Sophia snatched the microphone away from me. "Ethan, I admit that I did wrong, but I really was too busy at work to pay attention to your feelings. Liam and I grew up together. If there really was something between us, there would be no room for you. So don't be angry, okay?" She looked sincerely at Liam in the audience. Her eyes were slightly red. She looked exceptionally innocent. I clenched my fists, suddenly pushed away the approaching Sophia, questioned, "You, as a professional host, is this how you morally abduct me?" Compared to Sophia's dishonorable tactics, what makes me even more angry is that the host has misled everyone's attention. "Ethan, you should stop. The host is someone I specifically invited to help. Because I don't want us to end like this. In your opinion, is our relationship over the years so worthless? You're still so stubborn." I don't know what Liam said to Sophia to make her act so convincingly aggrieved, but I won't be forced into an embarrassing situation and suffer in silence. I took the microphone directly and spoke into the camera. Sophia probably didn't expect that I was no longer the same Ethan who let her do whatever she wanted. Facing Liam's provocative gaze, I pointed at him without flinching. I said firmly, "I will never forgive you, because Sophia and I are no longer a couple. A long time ago, Sophia had an affair with Liam, and it happened in our room. They even got matching tattoos. As soon as I finished speaking, everyone's attention immediately focused on their necks. And indeed, they saw the same tattoo design. Sophia wanted to control me in front of everyone. She confidently believed that my love for her was enough to make me ignore everything. She also mentioned that she had surveillance videos of their affair. If I choose to remain silent today out of concern for the impact, everyone will believe Sophia's words to be true. I may be mistaken for a soft-hearted man who slanders his girlfriend out of jealousy, but she never expected that my decision to break up was not impulsive. It's just that I really don't want to be with her anymore. The interview quickly spread online. Since the actor's face was blurred in the video, netizens quickly guessed Liam's identity. It triggered a heated debate. People quickly found photos of Sophia and Liam together. From the details, they pieced together clues to the two's ambiguous relationship. 3 years ago, after Liam returned to China, his relationship with Sophia became ambiguous. Not only did they meet frequently, they also entered and left hotels together many times. Soon, this caused an uproar online. Sophia and Liam's scandal topped the search engine results. At the same time, Sophia's internet accounts, which she was so proud of, began to lose a lot of followers. The two of their names have almost become synonymous with scandal. Ethan, how dare you directly expose the surveillance? Do you want to completely destroy me? Sophia's voice came from the other end of the phone. It sounded very agitated. I could almost imagine her expression at this moment. I silently opened the hot search. Sure enough, I saw Liam's name appear on the top along with the word mistress. Before this hot search appeared, Sophia had not yet lost her mind to the point of changing her number to scold me regardless of her image. I can be responsible for every word I said on the show. Sophia, if you had not used me again and again to get the video effects and traffic you wanted, I would not have come to this. I rubbed my aching temples. After hanging up the phone, I felt much more relaxed. In another half-month, I will be flying abroad, and I have no intention of returning to this city that has caused me so much pain. Sophia keeps texting me on my new number, but the content is still full of accusations. Ethan, you need to issue a statement immediately saying that we broke up 3 years ago, and Liam is not the third party if you don't clarify the facts. I will go and get married with Liam right away, and you will lose me forever. Sophia doesn't seem to realize how ridiculous her words sound, and naively thought that I still had feelings for her. But when I thought about the professor at the institute, I opened my social media account and posted a statement. However, this was not the clarification Sophia had in mind. Instead, it clearly stated that she had nothing to do with it. It also emphasized that I had let go of the past. I would focus on my academic research in the future. I would no longer respond to any comments related to this matter. My statement received a lot of support and sympathy from netizens. Many people also began to analyze some of the doubts about the day I proposed. For example, Sophia said she was kidnapped, but the kidnappers never showed up, and she didn't call the police. When things got complicated, I saw Sophia again in the rehabilitation department of the hospital, dressed all in black. I thought she would come over and confront me right away, but when she saw me smiling gently at my assistant, she froze. The professor at the institute, considering my physical limitations, had specially asked a schoolmate to help me with my rehabilitation training. Sophia saw this scene. She felt that I had changed my heart. Her eyes suddenly turned red. Her lips trembled slightly as she approached. When she found that I subconsciously protected the schoolgirl, tears fell like rain. Ethan, is it true that you said we are breaking up? Are you really going abroad? And you won't come back? I was already indifferent to her tears. I just didn't understand why she was still clinging to this relationship that had long since ceased to exist in name only. Sophia has a performance-oriented personality disorder. She always likes to create dramatic conflicts in front of others. She wants to attract other people's attention again. So I have to treat all her performances as fake. Now when I see her tears, I don't feel anything at all. Ethan, don't do this to me. I'm just sick. I'm not here to make trouble with you today. I'm here to apologize. Sophia walked over quickly. She tried to hold my arm, her voice was full of tears. But I no longer cared whether she was sincere in her apology. At that moment, my phone suddenly vibrated. A news article popped up. Researcher Ethan was accused of selling research results. Evidence showed that he had connections with foreign organizations. The so-called evidence shown on the news was the research notes that Liam had torn up that day. What was written on those notes was the core secret of the entire research institute, and the person who reported my academic misconduct was none other than the recently controversial Liam. He even went so far as to broadcast it live. In the broadcast, he said, "All these recent scandals were started by Sophia and me. The aim was to distract everyone's attention and cover up our own problems." Sophia was standing next to him and heard Liam's words. She froze. She shook her head. She couldn't believe she had been used. She felt a pang of sadness. She couldn't help but say, "Ethan, I was also deceived by him. I really didn't think he would do that. I really did make a mistake. Ethan, you have to believe me." Sophia's heart was in turmoil. She clung to me, as if I were her only hope. I immediately received questions from many colleagues, and an interview with the professor. I slowly broke Sophia's fingers, unmoved by her tears. If you hadn't told him, how would he have known it was a core secret? Sophia may not have meant to, but I didn't bother thinking about it. My assistant pushed me away. Sophia's sobs echoed down the corridor for a long time. I was wrong. I really know that I was wrong. Ethan. Instead of arguing with Liam online, I contacted the media directly and held a press conference. When I walked on stage, the reporters immediately raised their microphones. Their eyes were full of curiosity and doubt. I adjusted my glasses. Using the screen mirroring function, I showed a photo of the notes on the screen. "Everyone, please take a look. This is the evidence Liam accuses me of selling the institute. This is the note I sent to the professor before I shredded it. But this only proves that you made a backup of the notes beforehand. It doesn't prove that you didn't leak confidential information." One reporter asked a pointed question. The just-teased atmosphere became tense again. I took a deep breath. I continued, "I don't know how much Liam paid you, but please take a good look. The content of this note is completely wrong. I did write this note. The data in it is the result of research carried out by my colleagues at the Institute. But when I recalculated a week ago, I found some small errors in the data. The results simply did not meet expectations." As soon as I finished speaking, the room immediately became noisy. I noticed Liam, who was mingling with the crowd, change color. He turned around and tried to leave. Before Liam could react, the security guard at the door quickly rushed up. He held him down. He tried to struggle, but it was useless. His plan was completely exposed by the iron evidence. He could no longer argue. At that moment, Sophia walked out of the crowd. With tears in her eyes, she watched this with mixed emotions. But she didn't look at Liam. She walked straight up to me and said, "Ethan, I'm sorry. I really didn't expect this. You'll forgive me, right?" She raised her hand and showed me the plain ring on her finger. She said, "We said we would be together forever, but I could tell at once that it wasn't the same ring anymore." It was the only time she apologized on camera. I know how hard it was for her with her acting disorder, but I didn't relent. I just whispered something in her ear. "Before I was pushed down the stairs that day, I actually saw you smiling. I knew then that all your actions were just to attract attention, but I was worried about you, so I agreed to the hostage exchange." Her face suddenly turned pale, her lips trembled, but she couldn't say a word. So when the police pressed her shoulders and handcuffed her, she fell to her knees and whispered my name. "Ethan, forgive me again. I'll take my medicine on time. I'll get well. Love me for the last time. Okay?" Sophia saw me turn to leave. She knew I was going abroad on a plane. I stopped in my tracks. I looked back at her. My eyes were full of mixed emotions. "Sophia, love is not an act, nor a transaction. I sincerely hope you will be happy, but our relationship, it ends here." Liam and Sophia were arrested by the police. I was on a plane, admiring the sunrise. Perhaps when they see the sun like this again, their hair will be completely white. As for me, I will face the challenges of the future with renewed hope.